Hi everyone, we're going to continue with our Bible story. I'm going to give you a little bit of background again, and then we're going to jump into things. So what we remember about what happened to the Israelites is that kings like King Ahab were very wicked, and they were disobeying God. And so God sent the Babylonians to conquer them, and they were in captivity for 70 years. After that, the Persian Empire takes over and they let the people go back, but not all of the people actually go back to Jerusalem. Some of them stay in the Persian Empire. But just because they didn't go back, we recognize that God did not forget his people. And so that's what we're going to see today in this story. So last time we saw Mordecai saving the king because two men were plotting against the king, and they wanted to kill him. Mordecai turned them in and saved the king's life. These men were found guilty and they hung on a tree because of what treason they caused. And it was noted in the king's records that Mordecai was the man who uncovered this plot for the king. Now, there was a man in the king's palace. He was kind of a prince, and his name was Haman. Now, a little bit of background. Let's see what we remember about our stories about King Saul. So this man, Haman, was from the family of King Agag. So try to remember, who was King Agag? Well, he was an Amalekite who the Israelites under Saul were supposed to kill. But instead, remember, King Saul wanted to keep all of the animals, the best animals, and to show off that he captured the king. Remember when he was supposed to kill all of them, but he didn't? And eventually Samuel saw what he did, and he said that this was wrong. And then he actually killed King Agag himself. Well, this man, Haman, was a descendant of King Agag. So he was kind of a prince, he was from royalty, and he kind of became the king's right-hand man. Sorry, I went too far. So his family was royalty, and the king kind of made him the prince and the second in charge of the land of Persia. And so all the servants of the king would bow down to Haman because he was the king's, he was also in control and had command over them. But if you notice in this picture over here, Mordecai does not bow down to Haman as the other servants would. Now, why would Haman do this? Well, let's see. So, the other servants go to Haman and ask him, why don't you bow down? And he says to them that he is a Jew and that he believes that when it says in his commandments that he should not worship another god, but the one true God, his God, Yahweh, and that this means that he would not bow down to another man. So do you remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when Nebuchadnezzar asked them to bow down and worship an idol? Well, this was the same kind of thing. Mordecai would only bow to God and serve him completely. So we are not supposed to put other things of this earth, like toys or other things you have that you think are really important. Those things aren't supposed to go in front of God in your love and your worship to God. And so Mordecai doesn't want to bow down to Haman. He puts God as first in his life, not Haman or another king, but God. So he refuses to bow down to Haman. Now, Haman notices this, and he's very angry with Mordecai. The other servants tell him, and he wants to hurt him because he was not bowing down to him. He didn't only want to hurt him, but he wanted to hurt all the Jews because he knew that all the Jews believed that they shouldn't bow down to him. So Haman schemed to find a way to punish not only Mordecai, but all of the Jews also. So Haman said to the king, There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all of your provinces and your kingdoms. Their laws are different from all other people, and they do not keep the king's laws. Therefore, it is not fitting for the king to let them remain. So he says that the king should make a decree or a rule that they should be killed. And so we'll see what he decides to do. Now, the king isn't quite sure about this yet, but Haman actually gives him kind of a bribe. He says, a law must be passed so that they can be destroyed. I will give you 10,000 talents of silver to the king's treasury to get this done. This is like saying, this is a big chunk of money, and this would be a big deal. So Haman is basically saying, I'll give you all of this silver, all of this money, if you make this decree. And then the king gives him something very important. So it was quite a bribe. It would have been very significant, a lot of money. And the king trusts Haman, and he gives him his signet ring, which means Haman could make a law. So this is a ring that the king would have worn, and if it had a stamp with this ring on it, then it would be everyone had to obey it. And so he trusts Haman very much, and he says, here's my ring, and he doesn't really know what Haman's going to do with it. So this isn't a very wise thing for the king to do, but he trusts him, and so he lets him do this. So a law went out in the whole Persian Empire that all Jews, young and old, children and adults, in one day, and to take all that they have. So they're going to take everything from all of these Jews, and on the 13th day of the 12th month of the calendar year, then they are all going to be killed. And so, again, for God's name, they will be persecuted. So would God help them at this time? Is God going to come and help his people? The Jews are God's covenant children, and they are now in a lot of danger, as everyone will want to kill them. So it would be kind of like someone like our prime minister saying to kill all the Christians. Wow! We can't imagine what that would feel like, knowing that on one day soon that it would all happen and everyone would be so sad and so worried and so scared, and they would be crying and wailing. And that's what the people did here. When Mordecai learned what had happened, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes. Just as some people might wear black to a funeral, they would put on rags and put on ashes on their heads to show this like intense grief that they had. And they weren't allowed to enter the king's gates in those clothes, so they would sit outside the gates. So outside the gates, he would cry in front of the king's gates, and in every province there were Jews heard the news. Everyone would cry out on the streets, and people were fasting and wearing these rags and putting ashes on their heads. And Esther hears of this. Now remember, Esther is also a Jew, but she's safe in the palace of the king, but no one knows she's a Jew. So Esther's maid comes and tells her what Mordecai is doing, and she gets really upset. She sends clothes to Mordecai because she's like, oh, he's in these rags and he has ashes on his head. Let's bring him new clothes. But he refuses them. And then Esther again sent out someone to see why he is so upset, and Mordecai tells all that had happened and gives him a copy of the decree to show Esther. So Mordecai thought that she should go to the king and beg him to save her people. So Esther doesn't really know everything that's going on yet, but once she gets the decree, she'll know what is happening. So Esther heard that and told her servant to tell Mordecai that she couldn't go to see the king if she hasn't been called, and it could put her in danger too, and she could be put to death. If the king does not hold out his gold scepter, if she comes into his presence. Now, this seems a little bit strange to us because it's not really anything like we would know today. But again, remember when Queen Vashti said no to the king, he completely banished her. So the king had a lot of power and authority. Now, if you went to the king without being called, that would be disrespectful. And then again, if he didn't lower his scepter when you came into his presence, you would be put to death. Now, this is Esther, and she's the queen, the king's wife, and she is even afraid to go into the presence of the king. So this would have been a very big deal. So she hadn't been called to see him for 30 days, and so she's kind of scared to see what would happen. Now, as they go back and forth, Mordecai and Esther keep on talking. So Mordecai now replies and says that if she doesn't, then there would be no Jews left, that they would all be killed and they would all die. Mordecai believes that God had placed Esther there at this time so that she would be able to save God's people. This was his plan. And so God has a plan for your life. He knows what will happen to you, even if you're scared of something happening. Maybe something bad may happen, like someone getting hurt or dying. But we have to remember that God is in control. He tells us not to worry about anything because he knows what will happen in our lives. And all we have to do is praise him. And so this is a big thing for Esther. She has to trust in the Lord. And so Esther then told her servant to tell Mordecai to gather all the Jews together and fast and pray for 3 days for her, that she will not die when she goes in front of the king. Her and her maids will fast and pray as well. So we see a difference from the feast they had at the beginning of the story to now, where they're fasting and not eating for 3 days. The situation is very serious. She then says if she dies, she dies. And then that it's God's plan. But at the least, she tries to help her people, and she does have courage. Now, I have a couple questions for you. What would you do? Would you put yourself in danger to save other Christians from dying? What would your decision be? You would have to be brave and remember that God is in control like Esther does. Now, we don't really know the rest of the story yet, or maybe you know the rest of the story, but we haven't talked about it yet in class. So just remember that bravery, and I hope that today you also have courage and strength that God is in control, and he always will be. All right, have a great day, everyone.